Welcome to Good Now and Forever. This is a series of 10-minute reflections on good news spirituality. It's brought to you, sponsored by the Charles and Catherine Free Family Foundation, and brought to you from Our Lady of the Sacred Heart Parish here in Watertown, New York. With us, as usual, is Vicki. Vicki's a member of the choir, and also Pat, member of the choir.
Member of the choir, yeah.
How'd that program go the other night?
It went excellent. There was great engagement with the kids.
Oh, good. He runs the confirmation program here. Now, this evening, what we're going to do to start off is that I'm going to read my Christmas letter to family members and friends, and we're going to discuss it and see whether we're making any sense out of this. So what are we going to? We're going to say, Dear Pat and Vicki, toward the end of 1793, an image of the goddess of reason was installed on the high altar of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Carried out with fanaticism, this event pointed to a paradox and a fatal flaw in the age of reason: contempt for emotions, an agenda which rationalists passionately pursued. Did you ever hear of the goddess of reason?
Never.
Well, she was an image, and when the age of reason began, they were fanatical. They had this infatuation with reason. Reason was the answer to everything. Forget about faith, forget about emotions especially. Emotions, we are intellectual people. We think. We shouldn't have these emotions, you know.
Is this where the science part came into, or was this a later development?
It goes a little later on, where that drifts in that direction. Okay, now the second paragraph here just explains that Chevalier was to spend a lifetime undoing the ills brought on by this disregard for emotions. But you see, the emotions, what it says here is the definitive, what does it say? The definitive of all the attributes in our human nature, emotions. And that's a medium within which hatred and love strive to exercise domain. In other words, the fact that we have emotions makes us human. Right. And if you don't have emotions, you're a psychopath or a sociopath. You know, if you don't have emotions, you don't have any way of finding what's right and wrong, good or bad. So anyhow, it says, Chevalier, witnessing the degradation into which humans fell when estranged from God, pointed to let's say these were the major ills besetting humanity: egoism, indifference, materialism, and Jansenism. Jansenism was a false religion. It was, like Pharisaical, and it was like they call Pelagian. You have to make it on your own. You have to be so much, and God's a judgmental God, and He'll send you to hell, and that's it. All
right, so there's no love of God.
That's correct, and there's no love
of anything
in egoism or indifferentism or materialism. But this is, I didn't put the word rationalism in there, but it's all tied into that rationalism. Because as soon as you go to rationalism, that's rationalism as a boss, You don't. There's no God, no faith. That's the way it is. Okay, now relying on the first letter of John, chapter 4, verse 16, Father Chevalier, after he identified, egoism, indifference, materialism, rationalism, Jansenism, he formed this first principle. The first principle is something that applies to everybody at all times under all circumstances. That's like the principle of charity. Charity is that's the first principle. There's no exception to charity. That's it. So anyhow, here's what his principle was: the most urgent human need, if people are to find meaning and happiness here on earth, is to learn to believe in God's love for them and to allow God's love to transform their lives. So that's the answer he gives. If you want to find meaning and happiness here on earth, learn to believe in God's love. And it's like they say, okay, the way you feel about others depends 98% on how you feel about yourself. Absolutely. So if you learn to believe in God's love for you, you can accept yourself. And when you can accept yourself, then you can accept others. That's the way it works. Okay, now that was his principle. Now, here's where we get into the real meat of this thing. To misuse or disregard our emotional constitution or nature is to lose touch with reality. See, we're not just, the intellect and will. We have what? We have memory, we have imagination, we have self-awareness, we have emotion. And now memory keeps you in touch with the past. Imagination, you can project the future. Emotion keeps you in touch with the present, with reality. And as soon as you embrace all this rationalism, you lose touch with reality. And that's the real problem. This is, and here this says here, this phenomenon, of losing touch with reality, it predictably led to more and more abstraction, not only in philosophy, but in the real world of politics and religion. This phenomenon, getting out of touch with reality, is clearly evident in ideological movements like communism, fascism, and Nazism. It also showed its face in humanism and in the interminable doctrinal disputes within the ranks of Christendom. So that's where, it all goes up here into the brain. It's not in the heart, So now you hear the Father Alfred Delp. He was a Jesuit priest who was murdered by the Nazis towards the end of World War II. I think it was February 9th, 1945. He summed up this whole drama of this this struggle between good and evil, truth and error, right and wrong, and so forth, in this prophetic statement: in spite of all right reason and orthodox belief, the churches are coming to a dead end. Whoa. What he's saying is, religion no longer had any saving influence on humanity, on human affairs. God didn't count anymore. And how did that start to happen? Going this flight into abstraction. Getting, all this theory is what matters. Now, then this next paragraph here, is that Pat, is that you following all that? Is that?
I look at this and am I following it? I don't know. But I look at this as, when you look at these movements of communism, fascism, and Nazism, you're losing a basic human right of free will.
Yeah.
Because they stop it.
Yeah, of course.
They want to prevent it. They want to block it. So if you don't have free will, you have no future.
You don't have no present either.
Well, you don't have any present. I don't know. I find that very disturbing when you look at that, when you put it in like one sentence here.
Well, but that's what happens when this whole thing, when you reject your emotional nature, you're in bad trouble. You cease to be human. You might as well be a sociopath. Like, now, why do you think you have all these shooting going on and all this stuff going on? In fact, there was this guy, Gracie, I forget what his name is, Graychick or something like that. The first serial killer that I knew of in Chicago, he killed all those nurses.
Was that? Oh, okay.
It was Richard Gasick. Richard Gasick or something like that.
He killed a whole bunch of people. Is he the guy that buried him under his front porch and all of that stuff?
Yeah. This guy, and he was addicted to pornography. Now, today there's all kinds of pornography, but then there was the exception, and there were laws against it. They put laws against guns. They ought to put laws against pornography and make a little sense. But anyhow, this guy, he was addicted to pornography, and he had no moral compulsion. He had nothing that would, enable him. I shouldn't do this. No, he just went and did it.
But didn't he also masquerade a life different from that? Wasn't he a leader in either his church or like the Scouts?
No, I think that was another guy. I don't know.
This guy had inner.
Well, nobody thought that he was killing all these
a great
people.
Masquerade.
Yeah, but anyhow, that's we got to get on here because we're going to run a little overtime. But anyhow, here goes. It says that. Why did this, like even devotion to the Sacred Heart was denigrated, it was put down because it was supposed to be too sentimental, more suited for old ladies and young men, not where the action is, and so forth. And then after Vatican II, a lot of popular theologians did a hatchet job on all private devotions. They said, we don't need devotions. All we need is a liturgy, and that's it, Wow. I mean, a devotion is how you cultivate a real conviction, a real sense of courage and loyalty and trust and all those things. And they threw it out. But what did change everything was this sentence in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Quote, emotions, that is, they call them passions, are natural components of the human psyche. They form the passageway and ensure the connection between the life of the senses and the life of the mind. That is one monumental statement. We don't know how how can the spirit communicate with the physical reality? Spirit is immaterial, the body is material. Only God knows how he got that figured out, but we know that we have a spirit because we don't, we can write poetry, frogs don't, and stuff like that, But here it is. This is the closest you're ever going to get to understand how spirit communicates with material things. Mm-hmm. Because it's done through the emotions. Wow. Now that really says a whole lot about emotions. So you can't afford to miss, because this is where it all comes, and this is where, as we're absorbing all these different experiences, guess what? They're always coming through the lens of emotion. And that's why it's just so important. So now to sum it up, here it says this statement that we just read, it gives long overdue attention to the monumental role of emotions in who we are and in what we do. Our previous truncated definition of a human being as a rational animal, that's what we used to say was a rational animal, says nothing about love, let alone about our emotional nature with its unique contribution to the happiness and joy realized in true love, and the role of emotions in assembling an informed conscience for leading people to maturity. The avalanche of narcissism, emotional deprivation disorder, depression, juvenile suicide, mass murder, and countless other social ills all echo an unconscionable neglect of cultivating healthy emotional growth. If the truth be known, without an emotional investment, faith and love are but a mental fiction. Notional assent is not only worthless, it makes Christianity an object of scorn. I guess we better quit with that. We're a little over time, but...
You got to do more than just go through the motions.
Well, that's for sure. It's got to come from the heart. It's like the scripture says, this people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. That's the way it goes. Right, well, listen, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon again. Take care. God bless.